Abhorrent Worship is the debut full-length album from Madison, Wisconsin-based death metal trio Ossuary, and we could qualify their general subgenre as death doom. They certainly formed with a lot of history in psychedelic rock and different types of bands, but this is probably their first general focus on old school death doom inspired sounds. They were leaning from something that was much more clearly inspired by sludge from my point of view as they started out back in 2015. I definitely heard that on their first couple of tapes. Not everyone would agree, but there's a distinction between classic doom metal and the kind of stuff that people were coming up with beyond the early popularity of Crowbar. And you can hear that in the riffs from me particularly. Those are distinct forms, and that's just kind of my perspective on that. That has changed over time, and their more distinct sound is closer to traditional death doom, and it features kind of hissed, blackened vocals, which are rasped through, and kind of obsessive riffing that I would compare to Desecracy, maybe newer Rune Magic, or a band like Cavern, which is maybe an extreme of that sound. And so this is a little bit more approachable, and on this record, the production values offer something that is closer to something like Vastum. So keep that in mind while we listen to a clip, and I'll talk about what's the big deal with this band and why I enjoyed it. So there are a couple things that I'm always looking for in a death doom metal band that claims to be old school. Is, do you have any semblance of the traditional doom metal riff and how that could apply to death metal? That's been a big thing since I think Master covered Black Sabbath. And if you look to bands like Beyond Belief or any number of groups I could recommend, there's something that Ossuary have that goes beyond kind of the doom you'll find on like Onward to Golgotha, and finds an obsession with it. This was maybe a band from the era of the cave band thing becoming bigger, so there are some simpler riffs in their earlier stuff, but most of it is closer to doom metal riffing overall. You'll notice I'm talking about riffs and not much else, and I think that's the point to make about this album, is that the point is sitting there with the riffs and kind of feeling the flow of the river move against you, as these really are kind of more rants than they are songs. This is a riff-based record, and following the thread is really the point of the entertainment value here for this band. It is a more of an old school styled sound. It is a variation on something you've probably heard before, but it's a pretty good one. You know, I'll sit with every Desecracy record in a row and enjoy the whole thing, and if you agree, you'll probably like on a basal level what Ossuary are doing with their sound. But if you're into something like Hooded Menace, this might not be as dynamic as anything like that. This is pretty straightforward stuff, and it comes from a very kind of simple approach overall, kind of slow jogging through its grooves and moving along on its own pace through linear rants is the way that I would describe them. They aren't really callbacks to a lot of riffs, and these aren't really chorus-based songs. They're just ugly death doom metal songs that trod along. Pretty simple thoughts from me. A pretty straightforward album. It's very good. I think that it sounds great. I think the album art is really unique. The presentation was compelling from start to finish, and it was really easy to listen to really get into and enjoy, because it's produced pretty well. Again, for me, this is just my kind of thing, as a kind of an obsessive death doom metal record with a lot of riffs, but check it out for yourself and see what you think. Released on May 23rd, and you can go to my review and read quite a lot more thoughts.